Hello, everyone. Today is the 25th of the 6th, 2025. Obviously, a legal disclaimer: the information provided is for educational information purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. No lawyer, client, solicitor, client, or fiduciary relationships created by your use or reliance upon this information or material. While every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, some information may not reflect the most current legal developments as things change over time. And if you're listening to this in the future, of course, laws can change, as an example. If you require legal advice, please contact a qualified legal expert in your area. And let's begin. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Is my mic working? Is it okay?
It is, yeah.
Fantastic. I don't think too many people will be on today, but I wanted to basically discuss these new company's house rules, and I wanted to see what you guys think of them as well. Hear your thoughts about them.
I've got the email. I just parked it for the moment.
Yeah, I've done the same as well. So it might be worth going around actually and hearing your views on it first. What do you think about it? Does anyone want to go first? No, me.
Yeah, you go first.
me go first, but then I'll tell you everything. So it's best to get your own ideas, and then I'll explain my thinking about it. So Teresa, if you want to go first, maybe. Well, why do you not like the new company house rules about providing identity, and what do you think the implications are? Essentially, I guess that's how we should start looking at this.
I just suppose I'm always a bit dubious when I'm asked for all of my, identity to be logged onto a system that I don't know anything about. So I don't know really, how they're going to use my data.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose I'm just sitting on the fence at the minute, just seeing, do I really have to do this?
Yeah. I'm just going to write down these questions so I remember them. So you're nervous about how to use the data. Okay. And anything else?
No, that was it really.
Okay. Would anyone like to go next? Sandy, do you have any ideas why you think this might be bad?
I don't know. It seemed to trying to be changing jurisdiction on us. That was my sort of thought. And the other thing was the online government way of doing the ID is highly suspicious, in my opinion, having read through it. Maybe a post office is slightly better, but you've still got to produce your passport. So depends whether you've got an EDP or not. I think that completely undermines that, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, no.
These were just quick thoughts. I'm not going to hurry into it like everybody else. And but there's also that new one that came out today, isn't there, as well, about the doing accounts and having to use their software and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're obviously changing everything, and I do wonder whether people that were querying Companies House with all this, there's certain people that were going hell to leather taking it down. I wonder if they were put in position to do that, actually.
So I'm not going to go into the implications yet, but what I think's happened is this process has had a bit of an impact on them, and they're trying to destroy it. So the whole purpose of this process was to separate yourself, from the legal corporation, essentially, and show that they're using a corporate implied name to come after you, and that's not you. But what I think they've done now is, I may as well just go into it because I'm talking. Well, what I think they're trying to do now essentially is tie you to that dead fiction. And the way they're doing that is they're getting you to provide all the identification and contract with them by submitting the ID. That's what I think's happening. And I think that's quite dangerous because it kind of ruins this process. The whole point of this process was you had the implied name. They used the implied name for contracts. You would then buy the title deed. You're the owner of that name. It's no longer implied, it's expressed, And by them asking you to ID the company name that's identical to your name is no longer having a separation of entity. It's tying the two entities together. If that makes sense. What are your thoughts thoughts on that? That's my thinking about what they're doing, and I find it very devious what they're doing.
Yeah.
Has anyone thought like that as well? How they're trying to tie us to the name? Because if you submit a passport with the same name as an ID, you know, you're tying it to the name. You can no longer say it's just a company, right?
No, and also by a passport or a driving license, you're a UK citizen, aren't you?
Yeah,
that's what it says. So that by using that ID, whether you try to extract yourself from that or not, you are actually saying you are that citizen, that legal entity.
Well, that's it, right? And then you're tying it to the company that you were using to
yeah. Because it has to be the same name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I have thought a way around this, but I'm just wondering, has anyone else thought about this as well?
I think you're ahead. Well, you're ahead of me anyway, Tegan.
Okay. I'm just thinking, why would they do this? You know, because everyone's like, oh, we've stirred them up. You know, look, they're finally making changes for the better. And I was very suspect of what they were doing from the beginning, because what they've also done now is, I don't know if anyone's been paying attention, if you do not comply with the filings and submit your ID, it becomes a criminal offense. So they've taken it out of the civil, the contract-based, and they've brought it into the criminal domain now as well. So they're going to get you on falsifying accounts by not submitting your ID. So this also scares the crap out of me. Why the hell would you do that? It seems very extreme to me. I don't know if anyone's noticed that as well.
Well, yeah, but it's like everything. There's no victim, so that shouldn't be criminal. But here we go. It's like the speeding, isn't it, and things like that. This is completely against our constitution, completely and utterly. I mean, I don't know how they can do it, and it is only the UK that's being targeted, nobody else, or people that are registered on the UK one. And
I'm sure they're using it as a test. They'll basically bring it out further with the other ones later, but I'd say they're just testing us for this at the moment.
Yeah, but the problem is we came under England and Wales, which has a constitution. Scotland doesn't. Obviously, they're under slightly different, and so Northern Ireland. And so now they're just bringing us back under the UK system, jurisdiction, as far as I can see.
Yeah. So the reason I'm mentioning criminal, just for full disclosure here, right? There's an act called I think it's called the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act 2023, so ECCTA. And what this does essentially is it gives Companies House new enforcement powers. They say it's to ensure integrity of the company register, and one of its central provisions is mandatory identity verification, for directors and persons of significant control and members of LLPs and anyone filing on behalf of the company, if not an authorized agent. But because that's a criminal law, this is quite scary for me. So I've been looking at ways to protect oneself from this. I'm currently working on something. I haven't tested it, but I'm pretty sure it would work. The whole thing you want to do is not have if you are going to, for example, register your name with our ID, is not do it with the same company name that you own, that matches your passport, right? So you'd want to do it with another name, or you'd want to have, for example, if you have multiple limited companies, probably a holding company that owns all those other companies, so XYZ Holdings. And then you would have the living director of that. You could verify that, and then that holding company could be the director of your sub-companies and person of significant control. What I'm thinking is you do not want to tie your real name to the company name if it's the same name. So it's the same with the unlimited company. There's no separation of entity, and then you have the unlimited liability, so they can't separate the personal from the corporate, so that's still going to be separated with the limited. But what happens is we were using that because there were two different entities, and we could show that this is a limited company, nothing to do with me, so you just don't want to tie yourself down to that, because it would be a nightmare going forward. That's my thoughts on this. Now, I'd love to hear some other people's thoughts on this, if anyone else has thought about it. Because obviously these things are coming in soon. Like, I'm getting emails saying you have to register, put in your passport identification, and I don't want to do that yet. And that's why I was doing this research. So I'm just curious, has anyone else thought about what to do with this if you are doing this process?
What if you don't have a passport or a driving license?
It's
I have to have one.
Yeah, well, that's another thing, right?
Mm.
Does it make sense why I'm saying you don't want to have the company name, your company name title deed that you bought was the same name as your passport, registering the two of them together? Do you understand why I'm saying that? Because there's no separation of entity then if you do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everyone? Because there's a lot of people quiet here now, so I'm just a bit nervous and maybe people aren't understanding. So I just think they're trying to trick us. I think they're trying to entrap us to basically cause trouble for ourselves going forward. I think this process has maybe stirred them a bit, and then they're trying to basically entrap us going forward so we can't use it getting out of things. That's what I personally think, but I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me.
Hi Tegan, evening. Hi, it's Wendy here. Evening, everybody. You were very prompt at starting, so I was trying to play catch up before I bowed in.
No problem.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I just this is where you've got a company passport. How does that play into it? If you're presenting them something that's already property of the company, are you not tying yourself to the name? Could that be an angle, or?
No, so what happens is you don't want to have something in the same, like an ID in the same name as the company. That's what I'm thinking. You don't want to tie yourself that, especially when they're bringing these criminal laws into play. You don't want them to be able to come after you for false filing or fraud and these
Right.
types of things, you know? That was the beauty of the whole process before. It was the separation of entity.
Yeah. I mean, when I first heard of it, I just thought they were trying to bog us down with so many things to do that we would slip up and they shut down the company or do something.
I think they'll be more sly.
But it's more, yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah, listening to you. I do get what you're saying.
Yeah, they never do things for our benefit. That's what I realized. Whenever they're changing these types of things, it's never done for our benefit, ever.
No, agreed.
There's always some agenda behind the scenes. And I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist there, but it's been proven time and time again that there is something there, and that, you know, they have implemented something, whether it's like a leak that comes out later or someone retires and admits that's exactly what they were doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I can just see this happening, and I can just see it causing trouble for people going forward, and I just don't want that. So that's why I wanted to discuss it with everyone. Like, obviously, it's quite simple, as I mentioned, to do the holding company and then transfer everything over, you know?
I just thought every company has to have a natural person as a director that they can hold responsible. So I don't quite understand what you're saying.
So as long as you can trace it back, from my understanding, I don't know if it's every company, as long as the holding company has a natural person, and you can have that clear transparency, like a family tree, you know, to someone you can hold responsible, that's okay. But what people were doing was like laundromat, right? Where they're having company upon company upon company, and you couldn't figure out who was doing what, and it was all kept secret. And then the person in significant control, most of them were in Germany or Belgium and stuff like this, and they were being very naughty, you know? Like a lot of the debt collectors are in Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands, you know? If you look at where the owners are and the person in significant control.
Right.
And then all the directors were just other companies, and then other holding companies and stuff like that, you know? But even when they went to the holding company, they weren't putting a living director, they were just putting another company. So it was a nightmare to figure out who was in charge and who was running stuff. And that, obviously, there was racketeering going on, you could tell. But I really don't think these changes are going to be good for us with this process. I just, something's screaming at me in the back of my head, warning me, you know?
But if they can trace it back to you, you're still not going to be liable.
It's still a separate entity, though. But it's still a separate entity. If you directly go with the same name and passport, and you're a director of that company, do you see what I mean? So John Doe, and then the director is John Doe, you don't want to do that, right?
Yeah, okay.
But if it's John Doe and then the director is Jamie Doe, that's totally different. You have a total separation of entity. They can't tie the two things together immediately. Okay. And then if they start going after another company and another company, well, that's far reaching, right? Especially with limited liability.
Yeah, okay.
So how would it work if you had a holding company then? So let's say Jane Doe Limited now falls under a holding company. Who's the director of Jane Doe Limited? Is it the
Yeah,
whole?
so the holding company, I'm calling it a holding company, right? You could have another limited company that owns your other limited companies. I'm thinking, I still need to research this, but this is what I think you can do because I've seen other companies do it from my research, right? So you have another limited company that owns your limited company, but the one that owns your limited company is the one that you'll verify with the living person, right? If you wanted it, but it doesn't even have to be you. It could be a partner, it could be someone else, right? Someone you've an agreement with, and you could still be, well, the person in significant control actually also has to ID themselves. So just be aware of that.
I don't see how that would work, because they're going to trace it back to an actual living man.
Yeah, but it's still a separation of entity. It's not directly linked to the company, is it?
But in court, they're going to go, this company owns this company, and you are the person.
Again, separate entities. How can they go, this company owns that company? Have they sued that company? Is that company in the court records?
If they sue the bottom company, then the holding company is liable, and then the
Why
director.
is the holding company liable? It's just a director. That doesn't make sense for limited liability, Mark.
Yeah, but you're talking about corrupt courts here.
Yeah, but it's still limited liability, right? That's the whole point of these LTD companies. It's limited liability. They can't extend out to another company. That's why when you do if you did the unlimited process, which I don't agree with, the only way you're protected is if a limited company owned the shares, because then it's directly limited to the limited company and they can't go after the limited company's directors. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On their personal asset side, I mean, just to be absolutely clear.
Well, I've got 2 limited companies and I'm director of both. So if you search on either company and then click on directors, it comes to the same person, which is me.
But that was before. They're saying now you have to put in an ID, right?
So I would have to ID just the director, and that would
significant control has to ID as well.
I wouldn't have to ID each limited company.
I don't think so. So if you have, give me a second, I'll share something.
I'm the same Tegan, Mark. I have a trading company working, and obviously my dormant name company. Yeah, so same situation.
Why can't I share this? It's not working. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find a file. It's not letting me share it. Why can't I share this? Doesn't appear when I want to share. Weird.
Aren't they asking you to commit fraud by using the ID of a passport or driving license?
No, because it's a European standard, I think now. Ever since he signed that deal with the EU, they're bringing in all this creepy stuff, if you've noticed.
Right.
If I do this, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Is that working? Sorry, I just did this quite quickly, but for example, I'm talking about the purple box here. You could have a holding company. You could go one layer above and the trust owns it, but you still need the living person, right? To identify it. But you could have a company XYZ Holdings. I'm saying a holding company just for reference. It could be another limited company or whatever, right? This one has the director, the person of significant control, and they'll be the owner of all the trademarks, right? Then you'd have, for example, your other companies. If you had, I have 4 here as an example, but you may have 1 or 2, right? So what happens is the debt collector normally will go to that company, right? And say XYZ, or you would ask for a contract with that, right? But the actual director would be the holding company. And then if they wrote to that company, it would be the holding company coming after the debt collector. Does that make sense? So you've got this layered approach in how you go after them. Can everyone see the screen okay? Do you want me to zoom in or anything?
Oh, that's fine.
I can see it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying here very, very quickly is this company shouldn't have the same name as the person that will use the passport, you know, the lower company, I'm saying, not the one that's going to own your company, will be the same for the person of the significant control. So they'll be owned by the, for example, holding company example I'm using. The holding company would also be the owner of the trademarks, and you don't want to connect your name to the company with the same name. This is where I'm having the issue. Something's screaming at me not to do that when you have to ID it with IDs.
So the holding company, you'd probably make a completely random name that isn't even remotely like your name.
Yeah, that you could do that. If you have like an old company, after you change your name with Enroll Depot, if you still have one of them, you could just change the company name as well. It just depends what you want to do. This is just my thinking behind it. I may not be right, you know. These are all still new, but what do you guys think? It's best to have a discussion about this, you know. Obviously, this hasn't come in force yet, but when it does, and they start trying to go after us with criminal things, it gets a bit scary.
I think they probably thought about everything that we would think about to get around it and come up with a way to entrap us.
Yeah. Oh, you can bet they will. I'm just going to put what that criminal law was in the chat, just so people know what I was talking about as well. You can do your own research on that. Does anyone else have any theories about why they're doing this? Or please, you know, raise your hand and speak up, you know.
Somebody else said to me that the legal person is a mortgage-backed security, so to identify with it would be serious securities fraud, and you could be classed as a human trafficker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is what somebody else said. But yeah, this can be rebutted under trust law. So via an affidavit, but it's all pretty new to everyone, isn't it? So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't trust them. From my experience, they've never worked with us ever. You know.
Yeah, they never have, never will.
No, exactly. And I just think we need to protect ourselves. And if it's as simple as just renaming another company, you know, and then putting that as the owner. Now, obviously, I still need to confirm this with Companies House if it's okay. Are they going to moan that not everyone is a living person in every company? But I've seen companies do this setup recently, and I've been watching them. So that's why I think do it like this, and then that way you have that triple layer, you know, that's going on, especially if you want the trademark enforcement and stuff. Because they can't just say we're writing to this name anymore. It's a totally different company, totally different entity that owns the trademark. That's your name.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that might save us is that there's lots of companies that do a lot of dodgy things, and in theory they've got to comply as well. In practice, probably not, but you know, they do far worse than what we're, you know, they think we do. We don't do anything wrong.
No, but they never go after them, if you've noticed.
No.
That's the problem. They never ever go after them. They may give them a slap on the wrist, like when you saw HSBC money laundering for the cartel. What was it, 100 and something billion? They got fined 500 million, but they made 100 billion profit or something. You know, like, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. They don't care. They're going, oh, it's the biggest fine ever, blah blah blah, and they still make, you know, not 95.5 billion profit.
Yeah. Well, they factor that in, don't they? They all these companies factor in lawsuits,
exactly.
Don't they? All the pharmaceuticals do.
Yeah. And you look at this new data law that's coming in, you know, where they're trying to change the GDPR laws and stuff like that. No way does that benefit us at all.
No.
You should have it all seized because it's all proceeds of crime, isn't it? Racketeering.
Yeah, you would think they'd seize everything, right? But they don't, unfortunately, because it's a two-tier system, as people say. Doesn't sound depressing, but you have to look at what it actually factually is, right?
Yeah. It's just, you got to pay your taxes. You just got to pay a percentage, and you can just do whatever you like.
And what people don't even realize is this modern way of taxing your income. You know, I'm not saying you didn't pay taxes in the old days, but mostly from the 1900s, they brought in this income tax type thing, you know, where you pay X percentage of what you earn. Before, if you earn something, it was kind of yours, and you just pay a bit of tax towards the country
Yeah.
every year, you know?
Yeah.
But not now, like, if you look at it, like, it's up to 63.5% or something, depending on what you earn, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just out of hand, gone crazy. They're wasting the money. Like, if you look at, for example, people talk about illegal migrants. Okay, I guess it's a hot topic. Some people agree, some people don't. But if you look at, like, they're putting $1 billion a month into that, and now they're going to put them in the housing. So there's going to be a shortage of housing when it's already a shortage. So they're going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So instead of getting a 4-star hotel, they're getting a house now, fully
Yeah.
furnished, and they get money to live on. And if you look at how much money they're spending, that's like the equivalent to nearly 1 million taxpayers paying in, you know,
Yeah.
maybe more. And then how many times is this going on with everything else? No wonder we've got no money. No wonder we're at 100% debt to GDP, you know?
Yeah.
So I just think we need to do something to figure out what the hell's going on and fight back.
Yeah. Well, what they're doing is trust fraud, really, because we entrust our taxes to them,
Yeah.
then they go on and give it to a third party. You know, that isn't how a trust works.
Exactly. No, that's exactly. That's a very valid point, man. That's a very, very valid point. But nobody calls them on it anymore. Like, how many
No.
people write complaints? And I know people saying complaints don't do anything, but if 50,000, 1 million people are writing to them, they have to do something, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, they are the trustees, and there should be some authorities, you know, who should be calling them to book for their trust fraud, but there isn't anyone doing that.
I know. We've just become so complacent, and it's quite scary.
Yeah.
If you think, how are our kids going to grow up? They won't know anything, you know? They won't know any different. They're going to
No.
go through this indoctrination if they're in the mainstream education system. Even with private education is quite bad, unless you homeschool them. But then, you know, that's also very difficult.
Yeah. Well, they're growing up in a nation run by a crime syndicate. You know, that's just normal for them. They think that's just the way of life. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah. So it is quite concerning, and I just think we need to. Yeah. Does Darren want to say something?
Sorry.
Were you talking?
No. Someone. Sorry, I didn't realise I was unmuted. Someone.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, you know, we need to do something where we have a strong community base where we're able to help each other effectively. There's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of groups trying to help, but as I always say, what's the success rate? There's no point putting energy into something that's not successful. We need to be doing something where we can help each other successfully counter them, you know? And you do see some really good people going out and helping and stopping stuff, and credit to them. But unfortunately, there's also a lot of bad advice out there as well that people are following. Why do you think they're not banned and they're pushed really far, you know? And then they're basically just money driven, I'll say. I'm sure you've seen it with a few companies already, or these so-called people helping in certain groups, but it's so important we take care of ourselves as a community. I don't know what you guys and girls think about that. Let me know.
Tegan, someone just touched on trusts. Is that not a way forward to actually have the company in a private trust with non-disclosure agreements?
You'll still need a living director and the person of significant control.
Okay.
Even if it's a trust, I don't know. I'll have to call Companies House and ask them, have you disclose a living person if it's a trust or in their company, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what I had on that diagram. I don't know if you saw that. It had a trust at the top, you know? It could be the way forward. Yeah, I agree. But normally,
isn't that how all the rich people do it? They don't own anything. It's all in trust.
The rich people do it, but they don't have the trusts in England. They've got the trusts offshore where they can't touch them, you know? And then even if they can touch them, it takes about 10, 15 years to gain access, you know? By that time, they've moved and sold everything to another trust. So when they gain access, there's nothing there. They have to spend another 10, 15 years going after it. And they just keep doing this until they give up. That's essentially what the rich do, you know? They own nothing in their name. It's all owned by trust. There's all non-disclosure agreements, so they can't take anything from you. And if you go, okay, speak to the manager of the trust, and they'll ask, who's that? And you're like, I don't know. And it's up to them to find out, right?
It's like that movie, The Laundromat.
It's exactly like Laundromat, right? But we just got to protect ourselves, though, because it looks like they are protecting the criminals, the racketeering that's going on, and they're going to come after us. That's just the feeling I have.
Can I ask a question about council tax?
Go for it.
I've got Jacobs coming after me now for an alleged liability order from last year.
Yeah.
So I wrote to them and I said, please send me a copy of the liability order and any warrant you have and evidence of your authorization to act for the council. And they replied saying, if you want a copy of the liability order, you need to go to the council.
No. If they're saying they're acting on behalf of it, they have to prove it to you, right? Just DSAR them.
Yeah. And then I said, please delete all my data according to GDPR. And they said,
legitimate interest, they won't, right?
That request is denied because we have a lawful basis to pursue you, blah, blah, blah.
But they only have a lawful basis if they provide the documentation.
Right.
And
So
did they use something called tracing to identify you? Because from my understanding of GDPR, tracing is where they go to the land registry or something, and then they try tie something to you. How did they get to your house, or didn't know you were living there, for example?
Well, they probably got my name and address off the council.
Okay.
So anyway, then they sent me an email statement, which is the balance outstanding, the liability order date, and the court that allegedly issued it. And that's not really, that's nothing, that's just...
But that's not what you asked for, right?
No.
So they haven't complied. So it's in dispute until they can comply, right?
They said, further to your request for a statement of account. I never asked them for that. But could I write to them from my trademark company, because that's what they're using in the address field?
They've used your trademark? Yeah. Well, from my understanding, if it's in a bill, or they're using it, so they get paid by the council, right?
Yeah.
These bailiffs or whatever, debt collectors, whatever you want to call them. I call them just idiots, scumbags, whatever you want to call them, right? You'd have to be an absolute scumbag to go into that job. But if they're using another entity's property for financial and commercial gain to the detriment of that company, which could be yours, they can't do that as far as I'm concerned. Now, I don't know what you have trademarked. I don't know what classes. Is it just class 35, provision of company nominee director, or is it something else?
There's class 35 with a few different entries, which I think I sent on the Telegram group. But
did you have debt collection in that? I don't remember. It was a few months ago.
No, it was more business management and business consultancy and nominee directors.
I would call the trademark people, the IPO, right? And just ask them what class and goods and services come under debt collection. Stuff like that. And then file a new one if you have the money. Now, your other one's still valid, right? So you can still send them a cease and desist and a fee schedule. And then be doing this behind the scenes as well. You could do that. Obviously, I can't give you legal advice. I'm not qualified to do so, so don't think anything I say is legal advice. But
you can't add things to a class once
you can create a whole new application, right? So you can have John Doe's already registered, for example, or you have just a trademark called Mark, right? Already registered. You can make a new application, Mark, and add different classes with goods and services. And what happens is they're going to check their registry to see who owns it. And if it's similar to your one, they'll just contact you saying, this person is trying to register. We notice it's the same as yours. Do you have any objection? And because it's you say no. And then you get all the additional protection.
So it's the same trademark with the same marks, but different classes.
Exactly. You don't even have to do the all lowercase if you don't want to. You could just do the two, you know, all upper and upper lower.
Yeah.
Just save you a bit of money if you wanted to, right?
Well, yeah,
And
I
then
was
the
thinking,
second you have that, and then they're enforcing debt, well, that's a whole other ball game, I'll just say, yeah.
they must have sent me about 4 or 5 letters with my trademark on. So
Yeah, so you can write from the company saying cease and desist, you're using the trademark, and give them a fee schedule, and then say every instance where they've used it, anything going forward has a fee of, well, what's the debt that they allege you owe, times 2 it.
yeah,
And then it's per instance of use. Always put that, because you don't want them just paying once and then, you know, they can use it the rest of their lives.
yeah,
So just be aware of that little thing, you know.
yeah. Also, I'm dealing with a private parking company, and I've followed your debt process on the
Yeah.
website. I sent a couple of letters, and they replied saying, you know, thanks for your communication. The claim in question is based in contract law, blah, blah, blah. When
So
you,
they didn't respond to what you asked, did they?
no, they didn't. But they're basically saying, you contractually agreed to abide by the terms and conditions when you parked where you did.
But how did you know it was you? Did they have you on video?
No.
So how did they know it was you?
They went to DVLA.
Yeah, but okay, that's the registered keeper though.
Right.
Did you see what I'm saying with the wording they're using? Sorry. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, this isn't the parking company. This is Debt Recovery Plus, which they passed it on to.
And again, is that in the trademark name?
No, it's first initial, surname.
Well, who's the first initial? What does that mean? Like, for example, if it's M, right? So if I go on Google now, right? Just in English, how many names start with M, right? Because how do you know, right? So if I go on Google, 4,170 names start with M. Yeah? How do you know what that name is?
Well, you don't. Could be anything.
Yeah, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
It could be Mr. Margaret.
You can just say, can you clarify? And then when they do violate it, well, what you can do is, you know, who is M? You ask them to clarify, and you also send them a fee schedule saying, you know, you're not allowed to use my property, blah blah blah. Like on the website, you know, if you do use the property, there's a fee.
Yeah.
And then you could have a contract with your limited company to use the trademark. You know, how do they know?
Right. Well, they don't.
Exactly. They can never know, right? Only you would know. And if you wanted, you could always backdate something. I'm not saying, you know, obviously not legal advice, but it's possible to backdate stuff. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just take care of yourself. You know, there's so many of these cowboys, whatever you want to call them, out there causing trouble, but you have to know how to respond to them. Because they act all cocky, they'll abuse the process left, right, and center, you know? They won't care unless it's costing them money. And that's what I learned the hard way. The only way they learn is when it actually hits them in the pocket.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, we can still chat in the Telegram group and stuff. Just if you have any questions, post it. You know, if you want to redact certain things or send me redacted things privately, you know, I can talk with you.
Yeah, I've scanned them in. I was going to send you an email actually with just to see what your thoughts were on how to respond.
Yeah, cool.
That's okay. Yeah.
We can discuss this offline because you probably want to keep some things private, you know, which I understand.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
No problem, buddy. Teresa, you have your hand up.
Hi. Yeah. Thanks. I was just telling a friend recently that I was writing to Anglian Water as the company So basically asking them, where the contract was and attaching my fee schedule. And then this friend said to me, he said, well, aren't you the third party interloper then as a limited company writing?
Well,
Because
not if the company is the same name and they're writing to that company with a bill.
But they're not. They haven't said limited, have they? They've put the
Yeah,
title.
but how do you know? It could have been a typo. It's the same name. Could be the same name as your trademark, your company trademark, for example. Is it the same name as the trademark?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's company property. So they're trading company property. So if they've sent a bill or an invoice with your trademark and there's no contract, you're allowed to open said mail and check who's using your company property. Does that make sense? Or if not, tell me. I'll try to explain it in another way.
Yeah,
so,
no, I am. I'm having a bit of a wobbly about it because I'm like,
So what happens
because
is
they're
your
writing
limited
as
company is a separate entity, right?
yeah.
It's dormant. Your limited company, I'm assuming, owns the trademark.
Let's just cut the trademark part out because I haven't done the trademark properly.
But even if it is a trademark, you still have the right to talk with them. That's what I'm saying. Even if you haven't done it properly, yeah, it's still a registered trademark and it could still be trading it. So you may not have a strong case as if you had the exact goods and services, but it's still trademarked name. It's still property of the company.
Yeah, but the thing was, as my friend said, that the Anglian Water haven't written to a limited. They've written to Ms.
Using the company property. So it's like someone coming into your house and all of a sudden taking your, I don't know, your oven out. Can they do that? Or coming into your house, taking your car keys and driving off. Can they do that?
No.
Well, exactly, right? So once something is registered with that, you own the title deed to it. Not them. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
I think property. I can't just go into your house and take whatever I want, can I? And then charge you for it for me taking it. That's essentially what they've done. They've gone into your company's house, like the pun there, but they've gone into your company, they've taken their property and they're charging you for the use of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you got to look at it like that. So how is that third party interloping? I'm guessing your friend didn't know the full story or something. Maybe that's why they mentioned it like that. But if I explain it to you like that, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
I mean, this friend, he's using the liens process. So he's slapping liens on everybody.
Never seen that work. I've tried that myself for 2 years. Never worked for me personally. Has it worked on them? With them?
Well, yeah, he said that he's basically found that directors have been resigning, and which he said is a bit of a coincidence, but he said he slaps his lead.
What happens when they change title or something, or change from position? So you're from director of human resources to director of finance. The lien's invalidated then, right?
Yeah, I don't know who he's. Yeah, I don't know who he's.
Yeah. So just an example for you of how easy it is to get around them.
Cool. All righty. Thanks.
No problem. But essentially, they can't go into your property and take your stuff, right? That's what I'm saying to you. Think of it like your house. No one can just enter your house, take your stuff, and then charge you for having your stuff, right? That's crazy. You call the police and you have them arrested for theft. You got to think the same way with your limited company. Because a trademark is property, right? It's not an implied name as this other group is saying. It's property. Once you express a name, it can no longer be implied. It's absolutely clear, unlike what some other group is saying, right? So you just got to be very careful with the wording that they use. I can take it off with you offline if you want. No problem. You may not want to give too much detail on the call. Absolutely understand that. So you can always message or email me. Obviously, it's not legal advice I'm giving, but we can brainstorm. Yeah, no, I just thought I would contact you actually and sort out my trademark and just make sure I was going down the right path. Happy to discuss Well, no
Thinking
problem.
about booking a Zoom with you.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, just reach out and we can discuss something. Yeah,
nice, thanks.
no problem. Wendy, you had some questions about trademark enforcement. You still there, Wendy? Yes, unmute yourself if you're there. We'll come back to her. Does anyone else have any other questions? While we're here, you're all quite quiet. Steve?
Steve, yeah.
It's okay. I'd just like to touch on council tax. I just want to speak about something.
Can I come back to you, Darren? Steve was just asking a question. Can I come back to you?
Sure, certainly, mate.
Oh,
Certainly.
No
not so
problem.
much-
I'll remember you. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Tegan, not so much a question, but just some kind of little wins, I guess,
Nice. Happy to hear.
to kind of share. So as you are aware, I got a notice of sort of intended prosecution for like going through, like a camera snap and you're going,
Yeah.
too fast in a certain zone.
Yeah.
And so I kind of followed the process that you shared with me. And I also did the data subject access request, and I just kind of went through that whole process, and they've literally just gone away.
Yeah.
Just gone away. Now it's outside the 6 months. It's like it's like it happened like 8 months ago. So they're way out of the 6 months. I've had nothing from them. And I think that's kind of a win, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm so it's just an example for everybody on here that just kind of following that kind of process creates so much work for them that they just end up writing it off.
Well done. Well done.
And then I got one from a local council, and I kind of used the templates that you've got on the website, and I kind of tweaked those, and I've kind of sent those off as well, to kind of basically there's the under the Bill of Rights, you can't be fined for something if you haven't had your day in court.
Yeah.
And I basically said to them, I want my day in court, right? Plus, I want my data subject. Then I did a data subject access request for like, things like, who's been harmed by this, and all that. So I've just been following the templates, tweaking those templates myself, and then just sending those out. And I know for a fact, and I won't give too much detail on this but I know for a fact that if you challenge them in a way that's not in line with the kind of process, then it goes into a manual. Then they have to manually process it, and they are just not set up for manually processing things. They just expect people to accept it, to sign the documents, to go, yeah, I was speeding and all that kind of stuff, just agree to it. But when you challenge that, they really don't have the resources or the people or the time or the joined up capability in the back end to be able to handle that. And that's why I think it just goes away. It's too much effort.
Well, you can imagine every person in court could be costing 10, 20,000 a time if they have to get a solicitor to do everything.
Yeah.
The costs.
Yeah. If everybody did it, they just wouldn't be able to handle it. It would
implode, right?
The system would collapse under itself.
But if everyone stopped paying taxes for 30 days, the system would collapse, but people don't do it.
Yeah,
Just
but
30
if you just
days,
accept
that's
the
all I
process
say.
and you do what they ask you to do, then that process is really well defined, and it just flows through the system end to end, no problem. But as soon as there's a quirk to that, or you challenge a certain part of that process, then it becomes really difficult for them. So it does work. So I just thought I'd let you know that it's been great. And the one other point I wanted to just say is that I listened to your sort of talk really about sort of some of the issues you had with the Enroll Depot.
Yeah.
And I kind of was reflecting on that. And I think, although there are issues around it,
the Enroll Depot can separate you, create a degree of separation from
Yeah.
your birth name.
Yeah.
Right. And then if what like I've done, I've actually then put a trademark around that.
Yeah.
I can then say, well, there's a degree of separation between that trademark name and my Enroll Depot name.
Yeah.
And that separation is enough to kind of go, well, that's not me. That's an asset that this other company owns. Right. So I think there is some benefit there in terms of creating that degree of separation. Does that make sense? It's kind of
no, of course it is a degree of separation because it's a different entity you're creating.
yes, yeah.
The issue I had with it was all this law.
Yeah, all the other stuff around it, right?
Yeah.
But and I agree with that. I kind of accept that there because on my one it's got the Queen's Bench stamp and the Queen had passed away several months before then.
Okay.
So
No, see, as long as you can change the name, and you got to realize with legal paperwork, the names have to match quite a lot, or they need to be able to show it's you. When you've got different name, who are they going after? You've legally changed your name. They haven't done anything. They can't say they weren't notified with the Enroll Depot because it's in the Gazette.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with the group.
No, fantastic, and thank you. It's always nice to hear.
Yeah, but the great thing now is I've got a process that I can initiate for all the other stuff that comes in. So I've kind of learned how to do it, which is great. So thank you for that.
No problem.
The investment and learning how to do that has been really helpful. So
well done. There's a confidence.
now
as
I'm
well,
kind of a little
knowing how
bit
to do it, right?
self-sufficient, right? I can self-serve, which is I
Yeah.
guess what it's all about.
Exactly, and it's kind of copy paste when you know what to
Yep.
do, right? The same
Yeah, and
process.
off you go. And I've got confidence now with it. It's kind of because I've been through the process a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it does work. I know some people are having some issues. I would be interested to see what exactly they're saying, because sometimes simple wording can trip you up. But it's definitely more wins than losses. That's all I'll say. Nothing is ever 100%, but there's a hell of a lot of wins I've noticed.
Yeah. So I'll throw it back to the group now.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for that, Steve. I do appreciate that. Darren, you had some questions.
Yes, well, really, it's just what Mark was just talking about, the council tax. So, we're dealing with them from last year, and it all went quiet. See, the group handed it back to the council, very quiet. Then I get a new bill, obviously for this year, which was returned because it's not addressed to me; it's just addressed to the Thorpe. That gets returned, and then out of the blue, 2 days ago, I have cameras. So I get a notification that someone's at my door, and I've got these two guys, one carrying like 2 rolls of carpet under his arms, and the other one standing in the background with his clipboard and a thing. And anyway, they hand delivered a letter from Stamford and Green, so they were bailiffs, threatening letter, all in bold red, and they're going to come back with a removal team within 24 hours. Call this number. So I ring the guy. He's ignored the signs that are on the gate. They removed implied rights of access and my registered office, blah, blah, blah. Quite cocky on the phone. Said they were coming back within 24 hours. That was 48 hours ago. I asked him what it was all about. He said, it's council tax. We need to discuss this debt. I said, well, once you've proved your authority, that you have the authority to be dealing with this, I take it you've got the liability order. Well, if you need to see the liability order, the council have got that. Well, I said, well, clearly they haven't. I said, because if you're dealing with this, then you would have it. And I said, if you've got a warrant, then you're more than welcome to come in and take what you like. I said, but have you got that? And he was just really, really cocky. He was just more interested in about trying to get an arrangement with me to pay this.
It's all fear tactics, isn't it? They normally come like really early in the morning. They're scumbags like that because it catches you off guard,
Yeah, I just absolutely. And within this letter, it says DVLA checking in process. Like, no, it's just. Well, anyway, 48 hours later, they haven't been back. he said he was coming back to me on the phone. I said, you're welcome to come back, mate. Anytime you like, you're going to get the same response. Unless you've got the correct paperwork in order, you're not coming in. Come back with the right paperwork and you're welcome.
Yeah. And on your removed implied rights of access, do you have a fee schedule?
I didn't get round to talking. In the end, he was getting so cocky, and I could feel myself sort of like reaching the boiling point where it was going to go from being polite and to start swearing.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up putting the phone down on because that's where we was going next, and I didn't want to lose control of it. Do you know what I mean?
No. Fair enough. I'm well done. First of all, that is success what you had there. So well done to that, and well done for handling it like that. I'm just saying, in regards to the removed implied rights of access sign up on your property, on that removed implied rights of access, do you have a fee schedule or a cost, what they call?
I haven't. It's just that it gives the list, the implied rights of access are revoked for this property.
Yeah.
Which he turned around and said, it doesn't apply to them. I said, I'm sorry, what do you mean it doesn't apply to you? I said, it applies to everybody, mate.
Yeah.
So it doesn't apply to us because they started trying to talk about he's a certified, well, I actually did check that. He is actually certified.
Yeah. But if you got a liability order, is it not fraud? Fraud Act 2006, fraud by false representation, maybe? I don't know. As a not legal advice, just thinking.
No, I would have thought with a liability order, Tegan, that there won't be one because they were stopped, wasn't they, in 2003? So nothing's been put in its place again. And then they were talking about it has to be it's now spoken because it's done in like a bulk process. But then that makes it void anyway from going by looking at other things, what's his name, Leighton and Suji and whatnot. So I don't really think there's much they can do, really, to be fair.
But even if they do come in, there's nothing, you own nothing on the property, so what are they going to take? If it's against you, for example, it could be someone else's stuff. It's the onus is on them to prove that you own it.
They might come in the property and feel sorry for me and put something in it for me.
Yeah, well, but you know what I mean? Worst case scenario, they broke in, criminals took something. That could be someone else's stuff, and that's criminal theft. And could be your kids, your wives, your brothers, your sisters.
That's right. Yeah.
Could be on a loan from someone.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah. I just wanted to just add that because Mark mentioned it, and sort of like hoping it's sort of like if he is worried, not to worry too much because they seem to be
well done. It's nice to hear people fighting back and holding their ground because these cowboys they're so evil, they're ruining so many lives.
Yeah, that's it, Tegan. Thank you.
No problem. Does anyone else have any other questions? We're coming up onto the hour.
Hi, Tegan. I am here now. I was here before, but I just couldn't get unmuted. I don't know why.
Welcome back.
I've been fighting back against my bailiff that gave me a visit to my mum's house. So I've been reading a lot about the Taking of Goods Act, and I feel like I've written and I'm ready to submit my N1 form because they can ignore notices and they do have a right to be there if they have a signed warrant of control or a legitimate liability order. But we know they don't have those. And they're bound by the County Court Act. So if people read that, I think that's what Wayne Leighton actually won on, wasn't it? It was a defective warrant. And he proved that because they didn't have it. So which is kind of the route that I'm going to try and go down, or I am going to go down. So I've kind of been busy with that. And I submitted a little tiny just against my mobile phone company that had wronged me, just to navigate the process and kind of understand it a little bit better. So I've been doing that. But yeah, I would like to start enforcing my trademark. I think, that's really important. It's not really worth having it if we don't. So it would just be some guidance on that, sort of maybe when you've got some time.
Absolutely. And you're able to speak to a free trademark lawyer for 30 minutes. So if you call the intellectual property and ask them how to speak to a free lawyer, there's something on, I think they do it once a month or something. They'll give you this phone number where you can get 30 minutes free speaking with an actual trademark lawyer.
Oh, okay.
So make sure you have all your questions ready. Don't answer like, "Oh, how are you?" type of conversations. Exactly what you want to know. Drill them on it.
Okay. And where will I find that? Is that on the
If you call the intellectual property office,
right? Okay.
just say you were advised the last time, but you lost the information. How do you contact them about a free 30 minutes free or something like that?
Okay.
They'll
Yeah.
be able to do it with you. That's what they told me the last time I contacted them.
Okay. Perfect.
Fantastic. And yeah, we're coming up in the hour. Normally I only do these for an hour because it gets too long otherwise, and people forget stuff that's going on. Unless anyone else has anything major they want to discuss, I'll take silence as a no.
They're all trying to unmute.
Probably. Just want to say well done to everyone. You know, if you have any questions, we can discuss it in the next meeting. Obviously, I'm having successes too. I have fought off the council tax. I'm still fixing that process. I've done something completely different, I'll say, and I want to just perfect it this year. So it'll be the second year I've done it. I want to see how it goes. And then if I've perfected that, I'll tell you what I was doing. I'm suing some other companies for basically GDPR breaches and stuff. I've got a GDPR breach against the council, registered with the ICO, so I can sue them now as well. I've got over 2 other companies, so I can also sue them for damages. So these GDPR breaches are quite nice when they don't respond, and they're pretty stupid of them not to respond. So just remember, you can build your own little portfolio up on how you go after them.
Sounds like a business model.
But you need to have your case references present.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a few of them now that I can use, and it's building up, you know. So it's just getting there, because you get these cowboy solicitors that get these big ass firms that, you know, registered all over the world, some of them, you know, and the stuff they put in writing to you, you know, I guess most people would be pretty nervous if a solicitor's sending you that, and you actually look at the law, what they did, and you're like glad that they put that in writing. It makes them look so bad you can go after them, you know.
Yeah.
I have one I'm suing, and they wouldn't provide me with the DSR, but they'll give it to their solicitors to use against me, which is very interesting.
Okay.
So that's obviously breaking some laws there and some rules. So I'm going after them for that as well.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
Well, this is it, right? So everything they're submitting, I'm going to have it thrown out essentially, because they haven't disclosed. But it's just interesting to see them panic, you know. They always come very threatening at the beginning, very, very threatening, you know. And then they kind of tone it down a bit, and they try to do this. It's always the same process. There's a psychological thing to blame it on you, make it seem like you're the crazy one, and then all of a sudden they say, okay, let's make a deal. Every time.
Yeah.
It's always the same checklist, you know.
Cool.
No, but thanks everyone for tonight. We can have another open session in about a month or so. Well, obviously, we'll still continue with the champion ones. But yeah, thanks for everyone for coming. I appreciate it, and have a good evening.
Yeah, thanks, Tegan.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.